Greatness. 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 Bow, bow, bow. Greatness.
Hello,
All right.
welcome.
Mike's over
Welcome.
here. There we go.
Welcome to Renewing the Mind podcast, and where we renew our perspective, we move toward uncertainty, and we find what's awesome about that.
In every situation.
And
Amen.
I'm your guest host.
Just
I
host.
host tonight, so we'll see what happens. We're here. We're going to talk about what every man needs to hear and what every woman wants her man to know. So it's going to be fun and interesting tonight.
Let's go.
How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling amazing. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying, like, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion. Want to kiss that with me,
I
Mom?
do.
Let's go. By the nation right there. Let's go.
I think he asks that every time I'm on the show.
Probably true.
And I probably
true.
say no every time.
Yeah, probably true. So we got a great topic. So this topic is old school, but it just got a new twist here. But like the concept of when you think about like the old school concept of like, you know, he wants her to be barefoot and pregnant, like stuck at home. Like that's the concept we're talking about. Like, why in the world would a husband want like his wife to just be stuck at home? Why in the world won't he like lift her up so they can become a power couple? And the converse is also right, correct? So like a spouse who's trying to hold down a husband.
Right.
So that's
doesn't want him out being successful or working in the work field and all that stuff, and wants to just keep them to herself.
Yeah. So this is the topic, what we're going to be talking about. This is what we're going to be moving toward. The first thing I want you to know is just a quick concept, like, because some of you, if you have a couple and you're going to start talking about this concept, you might instantly run into conflict. And the shortest distance between two people is laughter. Okay. Never forget that. The shortest distance between two people is laughter. Any tension, crack a joke, any tension, you know, even an old school dad joke, or just, I look at Stacey sometimes, I'll be like, pull my finger. And she literally, she'll go, really?
No.
So I want you to stop and think for a second. Like if you started to get a little frustrated, you start to get a little angst in between you two, just somebody crack a joke. And even if it's stupid and corny and just a dumb dad joke that fails, you'll still laugh and it breaks a little bit of the tension. Okay.
Okay. Are you going to give us a definition of what a power couple is?
Yeah. Okay. So there are a lot of definition of power couples. Okay. From things like they're both successful, they both make this amount of money, they both have their own company, they both started, a company from a startup from scratch. Like you can find all kinds. But the main thing that I want you to understand from a power couple, the concept is they are one mind, one flesh. A power couple is one mind, one flesh. Now that, you know, I could have a higher degree, she could have a higher degree, she can make more money, I can make more money. We're not worried about that equal thing as far as the power couple is concerned that way. What we're worried about, or what we are pushing for you to be concerned with, is the idea of influence, or the ability to encourage. So for our definition, we are one flesh, one mind, and we have one influence, which means if I fall down, Stacey influences me to get back up. If she falls down, I influence her to get back up. Our influence is that we are literally failing if one of us is down. Okay. And I don't want you to use that manipulatively. So like if I'm succeeding in some kind of, I don't know, talking business or coaching business, Stacey's going to fake sick so I don't get to go. We're not talking about that kind of thing. When a person's down, you're going to slow me down. We're just talking about like when somebody says stuff like, well, I don't think I can keep up, or I don't know if I can do it, or just do it without me. Like I'm not feeling well tonight. Like that's the thing we're working on, is like that whole concept of power couple, is that you two are a power influence couple first over each other, and then over everybody else you have influence on. Okay. So the first thing I want you to think about is this, and I'll answer those questions, and Stacey's going to answer the questions as well. But real quickly, we'll just jump in to this piece that's really, really important. So what is the thing that every man needs to hear? Okay. And I'm going to say it from a man's perspective. What is the thing that every man needs to hear? You need to hear this, that you might be holding your wife back simply because you're insecure. That's simple. That's straight. You might be the one who's not letting your wife start an entrepreneurship job. You might be the one who convinces your wife, like, nah, don't go for the promotion because they're just going to use you. Those kind of things. So really, I want you to reflect into you. Like, are you insecure, not letting your wife go because she could see a successful man, because she might have to like give a presentation with another dude? Those pieces are what I really need you to hear, that you might be the reason why your wife is insecure because of your insecurity.
Or
Okay?
you don't want to let your wife know how pretty you think she is, how beautiful she is, because if she feels pretty, then she might leave you. That fear of her leaving you sometimes stops the guys from complimenting and encouraging their wives.
Yeah.
And I just want to say too, we did put the little title, what every man needs to hear and what every woman wants her man to know. But it actually, tonight we're not talking about just that scenario. We could flip it and say what every woman needs to hear and what every man wants her woman to know. So we're really talking about just spouses and what we need to be doing, because the women, I could be doing the exact same thing to Raul. I could be pushing him down and holding him back, not wanting him to be as successful as he could be, not wanting him to step out because I wanted him for myself. So it can go both ways.
Yeah, for sure. And then finishing with that same thing, what every woman wants her man to know. The thought that I had right now is, I am not your enemy. And in our dark times, if we fight, and I'm really intense or something, and I come at Stacey, a lot of times she'll yell that, like, I'm not your enemy. And it actually wakes me up. And so like it just like, oh yeah, I don't mean to coming at you, I'm just intense or whatever. And then it just helps me reboot that thought. But when I work with couples in the office, that's one of the number one complaints. Like, I'm not your enemy. Why are you taking this out on me? Vice versa, the woman toward the man or the man toward the woman. So what every woman wants her man to know would be, I'm not your enemy. And this is how I think of Stacey. Like, she literally could be your launch pad. She literally could be your launch pad, like a trampoline, like jump on her and like, boom, you just fly up. So she literally could launch you. So those are the pieces I want you to understand from the power couple, the definitions of those top questions, insecurity and holding each other back. Those are the big pieces.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of go over just more definitions of what we're talking about here tonight. So I say men want to keep their wives, and we can flip it, where she is so they don't leave. That's a fear. That's what a lot of times is behind why they do that. Or like Rose said, because they're insecure. If she thinks she's pretty, she will find someone else. If she can support herself, she will not need me. So that's a fear for people. We want to clarify, this is not fixing your spouse. This is empowering them to fix themselves. So we're not here trying to say you're fixing your spouse. You're not. You're just empowering them, encouraging them to do what they need to do to be the best version of themselves. Okay. Yeah. So empowering your spouse, for men or women. Okay. What does empowering mean? It means to enable or permit. So what does enable mean? To give someone or something the authority or means to do something, to make it possible. And permit is to authorize or give permission. Okay, so we are encouraging them. We should be their biggest fan. We should be telling them to go for it. We should be walking alongside of them. We should be supporting them. We should be making sure that they're having a clear vision of themselves. Sometimes they don't have a clear vision. They think they can't do it, or they're discouraged or whatever. And we can be the one to say, hey, nope, that's not it. Look what you did 5 years ago. Look what you did last week, and be the one to come alongside of them and push them to do what we know that they can do.
Right. That's a good point. The other thing I think happens too is, like, if you get too much into the concept of where you're wrong or where your struggle is, people won't tell you no more. They'll hide it. So the thought that comes to mind here is, in the Bible, it talks about a Christian woman who marries a man who's not a Christian. And the concept is, how do you win your husband over? And that's just the direction of this scenario specifically. And it's definitely not a complaining wife. It's definitely not a wife who is showing the man a list of all the things he sucks at, or especially like my personal thing as a dad, as a man, is not to be incongruent. Like if I say something, I can't do the opposite. And so as a wife, if I say, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'm taking Valencia to do this, and then I don't, you can't throw that in my face. The number one thing would be to remind me in love. But here's that biblical piece. The biblical piece is, because you are on your knees, because you are praying, because you are fasting, because the husband sees you worship the Lord, and he sees that your behavior will change. He sees that there's something deep inside of you that changes. Not that you go to church, not that you like listen to worship music or something like that. Those are just behavioral pieces, but he literally can see an inside out change in your soul. Once that happens, the husband converts and then starts to follow his wife. That's exactly what we did back in the day. Stacey tried to get me to church, and I went to church, and to be honest, just to spend time with Stacey. And then sometimes I'd be like, where are you going out to eat? I'm not kidding. Like, hey, do you want to go to church with us? I'm like, where are you guys going out to eat after church? Because her parents would pay.
Well, actually, my parents had a rule that if you wanted to see me during the week, you had to go to church with me.
Right. But I was trying not to go every week.
Yes,
you know
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, no,
Right.
I'm saying you went. I'm just saying that was the kind of a rule they had too.
Right. And
not every week, but yes.
Yeah. And this is something that attracted to me to Stacey, was that no matter my behavior, no matter what I was doing, she'd pull her attention away from me, or she wouldn't talk to me because she was mad at me, but she never screamed at me or yelled at me or said, you're a freaking this or you're freaking that. Her love was still there. I couldn't believe, like, how could somebody have that kind of a love? How can somebody have such compassion for a dude who says, I'm going to quit drinking, but then still goes to the parties? Like, how? And so this is the most important piece I want you to understand. If you're the man who's the climber, the Christian, the performer, the influencer, and you want your wife to climb up with you, you cannot demean or yell or shun whatsoever. None of it. Your job is to meet her at her level and encourage her. Meet her at her level and encourage her. So a funny thing about psychology is, back in the day when they used to do, well, they still probably do, but mice, mazes, rats, they would say this funny thing like, hey, quick question, cheese or shock? So, like back in the 60s when they used to shock mice for going the wrong direction, if you shocked the mice, that time they would have the fastest time ever. After that, they had so much like trauma that they wouldn't go back to the maze. So if you gave them cheese, they would have a consistent time and they never shut down on you. So here's the issue. When we talk about behavioral change in humans, psychologists sometimes laugh and we'll just say, dude, it's very simple, like cheese or shock, right? So like, how many of you, if you made a mistake and got shocked, how many of you would try to go keep climbing and try again? Not me. I mean, that's a no-brainer, okay? So when we're talking about couples, spouses, that's super important for you to realize is like, I'm going to love on my husband or my spouse by going deeper in my relationship with Christ so that the change inside of me is attractive to him or her, okay? That's the spiritual side. The behavioral side, same situation. I'm not going to throw darts. I'm not going to blame. You're not my enemy. I'm going to keep climbing. And hopefully at your level, you start to climb and start to move. And that's the concept. And in our lives, like her, when we were first married, she started Bible study stuff at nighttime. And I'm literally just turning over snoring. And then after a while, we kind of look back and forth. And I don't even know where we got those cards, but we got these little biblical cards where like you just memorize verses on, like the top says top 10 verses on anxiety or something. And then there's like 5 or 6 verses on each side. And so we would memorize them. What happened is, I don't know how it became a competition.
Always a competition.
Always a competition. Power couple. Hey, what? Where's that button at? Where's that hit that button? So we were like this power couple, and all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, okay, you think you're dope? Like, okay, so what about this card on anger? How many verses can you pop off? And then she would pop some off, and she started smoking me. So now, of course, here we go. I started studying just to get on top and just like keep winning. So that whole concept of studying to make yourself approved biblically, that pulled me out because she was already doing it. So I started to copy her and push forward, even though she wasn't screaming or yelling or getting mad at me at all. So, okay, here's what we're going to do. So I've been looking at a lot of these. Okay. Before we get going, does anybody have any questions? If you have any questions, ask. Make sure, yeah. If you have any questions, ask for them. Oh, good.
Sorry, we're used to Tyler being here and doing this, and I just realized there's a thing over here that said comments that we could actually see.
That's cool.
If you guys are commenting, so sorry.
Okay, people are saying hello. So we got Carrie here. We got Crystal. Carly, what's up, Carly? So that's good. So if you have any questions, make sure you let us know. We'll kind of keep pushing through. If you're feeling brave, we can get you in a live podcast too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Last week, Valencia was trying to get me to do it. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
it's like, do it, Mom, do it. Like, no.
That's funny. Okay, so here's the thing: like you can Google this stuff and you can find all kinds of answers. Psychology thinks different. There are some medical ideas about power couples. Of course, it's health and fitness and that kind of thing. So I kind of looked through a couple of the top lists. One was from a marriage magazine. One was from
for like Hollywood couples.
One was like a Hollywood power couple, and that was all about money and your net worth and stuff like that. So I kind of just pulled through, and the ones that I wrote down concepts that I wanted for us, like, okay, what makes us us? And then so I matched it to some of the ones that fit. So these are the ones we pulled off, okay? We'll get the list up to you. So number one, the first one is power couples have a couple vision. A couple vision. So this was what my mentor taught me years ago back in Iowa City. So probably 1996. We started doing like January 1 or 2 when we could go out for New Year's Eve just for us to celebrate. One of the very first things we did is we celebrated by looking at our spiritual goals, our couple's vision, our couple's goals. So we would literally say like, okay, so 1997, what does this look like for us? Like what would you just, if you could dream. If you could paint a picture. Now in current terms today, I say it like this, like if you had a goal or you had a vision and you could go to a vending machine and just hit like G39, what would pop out for you? Because everybody gets stuck on money and time and effort, and then it shuts down your vision. So don't worry about those pieces. The number one thing is that you just go, the money's already paid for, hit G37. What vision would you pull out for this year? And as we're coming in, there's 10, think about this for a second. There's 10 Mondays left in this year. 10 Mondays, and we are 2022. So I want you to start thinking about these things right now, because I don't want you to think 2022. I want you to think, okay, 10 Mondays, what can we get done? And I know this could be a struggle because somebody like shoots big goals and somebody shoots small baby step goals. It doesn't matter. They're both goals.
And don't demean the other one if they don't.
Right.
I'm more of the little mission goals.
Not little baby step.
And he's more of the, nothing wrong with that. He's steps. More, yeah.
Yeah, but like Grandma Ruth, baby steps still kill. Like she don't get it twisted. She'll truck you down. She got you. Okay, so the vision. Now here's the cool couple pieces about the vision. Okay, number one, it's spiritual, and then behavioral, and then financial. And in that spiritual / emotional, and those of you who know, been in the like 2 Times to Climb group, we do this spiritual wheel. We do this wheel with my kids. So they set a goal spiritually, they set a goal emotionally, behaviorally, and then they set an academic goal at the beginning of the year, and then just recycle back like every 6 weeks or whatever. We think about it every couple months. Sometimes you go a couple months and don't think about it, but look back and you're already on your move because you've set this goal in your mind to keep pushing. Okay. Now the other piece is, the first thing you have to do is you have to know what you want personally. Before Stacey and I could match on a couple goal, we have to actually say like, okay, well, here's what I was thinking for me. And that's kind of over here. Here's what you're thinking. Now, how can we merge that? How can we help each other? How can we develop the win-win?
And for us, we had to do this very early at age 18. I seriously remember sitting down with a whiteboard and my dad and Raul and me mapping out, okay, we're in high school. We have a kid. We got to graduate. We have to move to college. He's playing football. We had to look at all those pieces and literally do a vision. Okay, where do we see ourselves? Where are we going to plant? Where are we going to go to school? What school has the absolute best program for us coming in as a family? Yeah. So right away, we had to start doing visions and what we're going to do because we were young.
Yeah, and this ties into your prayer then. So like back then, so Jerry taught us the goals, right? And so my vision for that was like I had no idea. And I was looking at D1 schools, D2 schools, whatever. But long story short, I prayed. I said, Lord, tell me what I'm looking for. And I firmly felt in my gut that I was supposed to be looking for a school who accepted me being a dad. And it wasn't a loud thing. I didn't hear it. It's that still small voice that you feel. So I told Stacey, I was like, I think I'm supposed to be listening for what school understands that I'm a dad. The craziest thing in the world, I had 5 official NCAA visits where it's all paid. and they fly you into town and take you into their locker room and all that. Nebraska, Iowa, big schools. North Dakota State was the only school who in the itinerary had married student housing locked in for me. So everybody else went to visit some campus director or something, and they said, Sanchez, you're coming with me. And then we went and visited married student housing. And so I knew I was supposed to go to North Dakota State. So that's how it works.
Bridget says, give me examples of your couple goals. I think they change depending on where you're at in life and what's going on in your life. I think some years maybe they were more financial. Yeah. Like, how are we going to make more money? What are we doing? What's our future look like? What is our degrees going to look like? All that. And other times they might be spiritual. Maybe I remember there was a year in college where we were in college, we had a kid, we took the easy route, and we went to a church that literally started at 8:00 and it was over at 9. And
no, it was 8:45. It was a 45-minute thing.
It was in and out.
The next time started at 9. So they had like 4 sessions, 8, 9, 10, 11.
So that year, our goals were different because we sat down and we realized, okay, we're not growing spiritually at all. We're actually just checking it off the list, going to church on Sunday, check off list. So that year, our goals were spiritual. Find a new church. What are we going to do to grow spiritually? And so that's where our goals were. Where other times maybe they were financial. Sometimes they were even kid goals, like parenting goals, like where we were failing as a couple or individually, where we needed to have better goals than that. Sometimes they were relationship between the two of us. What did we need to work on our relationship? Is that spending more time together? What does that look like? What would be the vision to get the goals to get to the vision of us becoming closer as a couple and being more one?
Yeah. And the craziest thing in the world, like this seems so crazy now, it was even just reflecting. But like after we did that spiritual goal, when we visited that small church that just was running clockwork, after we fasted and prayed and we found River of Life Church in Cedar Rapids, we had to drive 30 minutes to church one way. So that's an hour just in driving in my busy grad school time. That's when I found Francis Frangipane, who ended up being my mentor, who's taught me most of the spiritual stuff that I know today, that my boys think of him as like my brother because I talk about him so much. When we circle back and we think about like our behavioral goals, when we realized Terrence was struggling in school, I realized that I'm going to have to be his teaching mentor. He was in, some special ed school training for reading, special classes, whatever they call those. And after 2 years, he wasn't making any gains at all. Like you just look at those charts and you're just depressed as a parent. So we circled back and I'm like, okay, then I'm going to have to take some time back and I'm going to have to be his reading mentor and I'm going to have to take this under my wing and we're going to have to figure this piece out. Right. And then like money wise, financial wise, marriage wise, weight wise, like all of our goals spark from that January 1st thing. And you just start to move on those goals. Because if you don't move on them, you build resentment. If I think like, hey, honey, we should do goal setting. And she's like, whatever, you can do it. All of a sudden I'm resentful of her. Like I'm mad at her. And remember, she's not my enemy. So then I do is like, okay, well, my goal was to set a couple goal. But you just set yours on your own, I'll set mine on your own, and I guess we'll meet in the middle somewhere.
Well, what we started doing was actually, because Bridget says here, do you have your own goals or find one together? What we did most years is we said, okay, tonight we're going to do our goal setting. So I sat down and I did the list of goals that I wanted to do personally and goals as a family I wanted to do. And he did the same. And then we went out to dinner. We did something like that where it was just us two. And then we talked about both of them. So we first did them on our own, and then we would come together and talk about it and mend them, mesh them together to be our goals. But some of them were individual ones specifically for me that only affected me. So we kind of did both.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. That's good.
And Crystal says spiritual, behavioral, and financial. Perfect. It has to, all of your goals have to align with who you are as a couple and your family and what your struggles are. Someone that doesn't struggle financially might never have a financial goal. Right. And then some that doesn't struggle spiritually, that might not ever be a goal. So it really is what is your issue in your life and in your marriage that you need to grow and get better on.
Yeah, for sure. Another piece on this one, on the couple vision is know the price. Okay. Know the price you have to pay. Now let me explain this. Know the price you have to pay. Notice I didn't say the cost. So if we're talking about like, okay, behavioral, we're going to buy some weight benches and stuff like that. I'm not talking about the cost of equipment. I'm talking about the price you have to pay. So if we set a goal and we're going to hold each other accountable, the price we have to pay is I'm going to have to cut something else out of my life then. The price I'm going to have to pay is I'm going to have to come home early from work. If we're going to do dinner together as a family, the price I have to pay is I'm going to have to say no to customers. If I'm going to join a board or I'm going to coach, a football team, like when we took on the Sergeant Bluff, football league, when they didn't have one, when Terrence was little, that's a lot for me to be the president and coach, 2 teams and then go to all the meetings and do all that. So we had to sit down and be like, do you realize how much price this is going to pay? We're going to have to pay. That's a lot of stuff for us to have to pay. Okay. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Tyler's coaching us from the sidelines.
Hey, coaches got coaches, right? By the way, if you hire a coach in anything, financial, behavioral, spiritual, and your coach doesn't have a coach, keep looking. I promise you, it's worth it. Okay, so I want you to really understand what is the price it's gonna. What is the price we're gonna have to pay? There's a cost, financial, but what's the price I'm gonna have to pay for me? So, like, if I'm gonna set a goal, like I'm gonna shoot this big giant buck, or I'm gonna go on an elk hunt, that's a price I have to pay because Stacey's not gonna have me. So we have to have that discussion. And then, like, no, you can't do that. Okay, well then, if it's a yes, keep climbing. Let's go. The resilience. Let's go. You guys understand. You get it. If you know, all day, every day. Right? Power couple in the house, team Jesus, like celebrate, victory candle. What if it's a no? What if I'm all sold in and Stacey's like, no, we're not paying that price. Right?
Which does happen.
Not the cost, the price happens all the time. All the time, because I'm this big dreamer and I want to go and like literally like we'd be broke if it was just me, because I'd have all this equipment to do everything I've ever wanted to do. And I would take people and I don't charge people. Like, I'm not a good businessman. So they'd be like, hey, this is $200, but I got 20. I'll take it 20. So that kind of sucks sometimes because what? Camera mic studio. Oh, yeah. That's exactly it too. So we have these conversations. Me and Tyler were just talking about upgrading mics this year at Black Friday. And Stacey's like, I got to see how much. I'm like, Tyler, get the big ones. Get the big ones. These ones don't pick us both up. They're unidirectional. You got to speak like right into it. So, you don't know what you don't know, but once you know, I'm like, yeah, the mics are out. Okay. But that's the example I want you guys to know is don't fight over the cost. The cost is something you guys will get over. It's the price. What price do you have to pay? I don't travel when the boys were little. I don't take gigs to go speak when the boys are little because I can't do Tyler's high school games. I can't do the little boys' little league, and I still can't like do my office work and then still have time for my wife. So I had to say no to something. So when you're unwilling to pay the price, it's not that you're unwilling to climb. It's unwilling to climb and then punish somebody for it. Okay. So those are the two pieces. Like, you have to know your individual and then your couple goals. And then the last piece is discuss the price. What's the price we're going to pay emotionally, spiritually, financially? Understand that? All right, cool. Goal number 2, y'all already know. Number 2 is the couple develops resilience. Okay. Team resilience. And here's why. If I'm really hurting and I'm down, Stacey's got to pick it up. Okay. One of my biggest scares was literally like the year 2000. I had vertigo and literally just tipped over in a chair at Jane Fran's and started puking, and literally puked for days. And then they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And then they found out I had vertigo. They had some kind of a bug in the ear that just messed with me and that just really wrecked me. I literally had to move Tyler out of his bedroom. I was on Tyler's bottom bunk. I'd have to do a pull up on his loft to get up out of the bed because the room swirled for 14 days straight. And I had to crawl to the bathroom, like literally. So Stacey had to run the whole entire house. So I'm down and out. And then Tyler, lifted up. Everything helped. So Tyler became a bigger brother, helping Terrence. All those things happened because you developed the resilience. So I say it this way. Couples have been through so much adversity that adversity actually becomes glue, so that you have mastered the art of like defending against a crisis. And those of you who've been around and been married a long time, the crisis will hit and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Like, I have no idea how we're gonna get over this. Like, this is gonna wreck us. People say this just funny wise. They say, this is gonna be the death of me, right? But then when they're after it, they look back and they go, you know what? Looking back, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It wasn't as bad as I said it was going to be. And then that becomes glue that literally solidifies you as a couple. And when you're solidified like that, the Bible is very clear. Nothing will separate you guys. Nothing will actually break that bond. And that's something that you really got to push through about the resilience. We laugh a lot because, okay, I'm going to throw myself under the bus. We laugh
Better you than me.
What? Yeah. We laugh about this. Well, okay. I laugh about it more than anybody, but when Stacey's sick, I'm like, what was your temp? I want her to get up and go really quickly because like she is such a gamer. She's such a like when Stacey's down, like everybody feels it. The boys will call me like, where's mom? I'm like, she's sick. Oh, should I call back then later? Like, she's sick. What do you need? I'll just text mom. She can get it when she's feeling better. Like, so when Stacey's down, I'm like, I'm not the best like dude to circle back and help her up. I'm like, I'll go get 7-Up and soup. And then I'm like, soup's ready. Do you want to come get it? You want me to bring it to you?
It gives me a little grace for a little bit of time. And that's all I get.
I'm working on it. Pray for me. I'm like, but then,
like, I literally, if I don't feel good and I'm on the couch, I have to like make sure I say, I don't feel good. I was not here all day. I'm just taking a rest because I'm not feeling very well. Yeah,
I'm working on it. I'm announcing this because I want to be congruent with it. Like, at some point, you guys see me, you can ask me, call me out, and be like, "Hey, how are you doing on Grace thing when Stacey's ill?" And hopefully, I'll say I'm on it. Like I'm climbing, I'm better. I want to work on it. So that's the couple resilience thing. And I know it's difficult for people because one of the wrongful or misinformed things that people say is they hear me teach on resilience. They hear like resilience is my thing, and they'll say resilience is overrated. Resilience cuts out your ability to feel. Resilience ignores feelings. None of that's true. Listen, if you understand resilience, it's this: feel your pain and be crushed. And then like a phoenix that rises out of the ashes, you have to decide, look, I can't freaking live here for days. I can't do this anymore. I can't stay in pain. I got to fight. And whatever your fight is, you start to pull up and grow. And then you look back at the pain. And here's what I want you to do. You go back in that pain, and you find one nugget, like one thing that you can manifest with you as you move. And then you look back at that pain and you're like, that sucked. That was a terrible time. But here's what I learned. And that nugget will keep you moving. And every time you have a crash or adversity or a failure or a loss, if you have one nugget in every single failure, think how strong you are. I mean, if you can level up in the middle of pain, what can break you? And so that's what I want you to really focus on. That resilience piece is like, hey, honey, this is sad. And you cry and whatever. I remember when I was trying to pass some of my big board tests, and my talking ones, I passed with honors, but my other ones, my national test, I failed the first time. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm still dealing with dyslexia. I literally came home, I laid in bed and I cried, and I just probably slept for 12 hours. Like, I don't even remember. Like, it was a devastating day. But because of that, I'm like, I'm not putting myself in this position again. So I overstudied the second time instead of being confident and crashing.
I think you can also even have resilience in couples when you fight. Because, when you fight, like, so you have a bad fight, but you work through it and you are fine. You know what I mean? And then you have another fight and at the time it seems devastating and awful, but you work through it and you're fine. I think like where we're at now, we're 50 and been married for 32 years. We can have a horrible fight where I'm crying and it seems like it's awful. But deep down inside, I know we're fine and we're going to be just fine. We're going to get over this fight and it's going to be no big deal. But I think you build even resilience in fighting, knowing that you got to pick yourself back up, work through it, talk, get through it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I get it now. I agree. That's good. Let's go, mama. All right. Number 3. So the third one is we cover each other's blind spots. So we have our blind spots covered. This is super important because if you only think about like your weaknesses, so like dyslexia, ADD, disorganization, like I'm 100 miles an hour, on my things that I love, I kill it. The things that don't, I suck. Like I got piles of stuff on the steps, like just paperwork stuff. The death of me is going to be paperwork, right? Okay. So here's the craziest thing in the world. Stacey's super good at paperwork. When we go to our accountant, Mike's always like, I love this, Stacey. You're so organized. He asks for a form. Stacey's just like licks her fingers and files through all these things. She's like, okay, it's right here. It's right here, right here. And I was like, look at my girl, go. Then he's like, hey, Sanchez, wait. I'm like, honey, do you have that form? Like, what? Huh? So listen, we all know in my house, like I have piles of papers. I love to read articles. I love to sticky note it and make notes and stuff, but where do I file it? I don't know. So it just sits around until somebody says, hey, do something with those piles of articles or piles of papers. And then I asked Stacey, like, hey, can you do me a favor and get me 3 binders? And here's the things that I want. And then I come back and it's done. And I'm not saying that to throw her under the bus. I'm not saying that to make me feel like, oh, okay, I'm somebody special. Like I literally suck at that. So
that's just playing on your strengths. That's my strength and not your strength. I have a good example.
there we go. There we go.
Putting this back to empowering someone and
Yes.
growing and moving. And I'm not saying we won't ever do this, but Raul gets very much into wanting to do real estate and buy apartment buildings and do all that. And we will maybe someday, because that's a great venture financially. But sometimes I have to remind him that that's not his strength. We don't know how to do plumbing and toilets and all that. And that is not his strength. That
I know a guy.
we might do that one day, but right now I have to remind him that his strength is in what the Lord has given him, his talent and his education and helping others and teaching and all that. So I say, why are you trying to build that source of income when that is not your strength? Your strength is in your PhD and helping others. And you need to find, and if you want a side business, you need to find that side business using your strengths in that area. So sometimes that's his blind spot. He sees someone else being successful in that area and he thinks, okay, we're going to do this, but that's not our talent. That's not his talent. So lovingly, I have to say, God blessed you with something that a lot of people don't have. And we need to use that in order to be successful and not just what someone else is doing.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Crystal says, for couples that have never done something like this, where would you recommend they start? Because the first step is always the hardest, breaking through the awkwardness. I would say you start with your vision and make it fun. You say, hey, we're going to do our vision for 2022 and or our goals for 2022 and our vision, what's going to be in 2023. And you both say, hey, you come up with a list of individual and couple ones, and I will too. And then plan a fun night. Plan going out to dinner. Plan whatever you guys love to do together. Do that. And that's when you sit down and go over those goals, because those goals are going to teach you how to continue in this journey, because you got to have a vision before you can start doing anything.
Correct. I agree. Everything. I love it. Another thing you could do that would help is you could just Google like some pastor or somebody that you really like, like Craig Rochelle, who's really good at leadership and goals, and type in, spiritual goal setting, how to spiritual goal setting or something, and find an outline, and then have 2 copies. And I would even say include your kids. So then you'd get 4 copies, 6 copies, 8, however many kids you get, or how many kids you have. And then everybody gets it. And then just have a quick family meeting. It's like, hey, here's a new thing we're trying. I'm going to try this too. I've never done it before. We're all going to do this. We're all going to circle up as a family. We're all going to grow this year. We're going to, climb. And then, like Stacey said, set a couple date to sit down and go over it. And remember, we're both learning. Nobody's the expert. We're trying to figure this out. And you take everybody where they're at. Some people are super detailed. Some people would just do like 4 or 5 statements. Right. Like, I'm just going to get better at this. Okay. And that's okay. And the questions you'd have is, okay. And we always, okay, explain that to me, okay, sell that to me. Like, if that's your goal, sell it to me. Okay. And it takes a while, because I promise you, and this is why we directed this toward men. When I work with couples, almost always, and so I would say 92% of the time, the man, the husband, the male, like that person is almost always the person who's like, I got it. Like, I don't need her. I got this. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, I wasn't born yesterday. I'm not wet behind the ears. And they say just these cliche things just to prove that, like, I'm still insecure and you can't push me. So, okay, I don't. And so men tend to come 1 or 2 sessions and they're done. And women will come for like 2 years. And the difference is women really want to grow and learn and push. But I'm smart enough to realize that, like, if I work with a woman will go back door and work with her husband. So I can touch a man through a woman, if that makes sense. So by helping a woman, I'm actually leveling up her husband or her man too. And so I want you to think about like the concept of, we got to grow together. It's going to be awkward. Go to your favorite restaurant, and no pressure. Take a lot of time. It's actually, there were times when we started arguing, and there's times where we're completely different pages. And there's times where like, okay, let's focus on the kids, because we're not making this isn't working right now, and have to come back and do it again. But then when you realize that you don't take it personal, because we're just all growing, it works really good.
And also, to go back to empowering each other, you can take it one step further, and you can, each of you decide to do a list of your own strengths and your own weaknesses. And then when you come together, you share that. And that's a great way to first of all, see how your spouse sees themselves. And then it's a great way for you to know how to encourage them, support them, empower them. I mean, because you will know what they think is their weakness and you'll know what they think is their strength. So it's
Yeah,
just kind of
that's really
diving
good.
into each other a little bit more. I know some people get very uncomfortable with that, but it's just really diving into your own thoughts and your own thinking and then being able to empower them once you know that. So that's another opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Thanks you, Crystal. That's a great question. The last piece on the blind spots is this: never expose your spouse's blind spot, like in public. Like you can't go to dinner and say, oh, let me tell you Raul's what he sucks at. Like that's not, we're okay with it. We've talked about it. So like I throw myself under the bus as much or more. So you don't expose somebody is what the word I'm trying to say. But you let them say in their weaknesses, like, hey honey, can I help you with your weaknesses? Is there anything that you would want me to do or take away from you? Can I cover you? If you say it that way, it makes sense. If we're a team, I can cover you. Okay. Listen, like in business, in sports, it's okay if you're a catcher, not the pitcher, right? It's okay if you're the quarterback, but you're not the lineman, or it's okay if you're the punter, you're not the receiver. People get positions and people get role players, but then when we go home, we're expected to do everything. And that doesn't make sense. Like, it's okay for us to just negotiate, like, hey, can you do this for me? Hey, I'll take that for you. Like, it's okay.
And it's going to change as your family changes. Once our kids are gone, now we call it the simple life. It's just me, Raul, and Valencia. So we call it the simple life. And our roles had to change.
Yeah.
And what we did, just our day-to-day things. So that always can change as you progress. Tyler says, prep and plan beforehand and then discuss at an amazing restaurant. And then he also says, then at the end of the meeting, pick the next check-in date, a deadline, a checkup meeting. Perfect. Awesome. That's great. Because what that's going to do is it's not going to be one time and you never do it ever again. So it's going to be an ongoing thing, and that's setting you up to continue an ongoing meeting on those. So perfect.
That's good. Yeah. Awesome.
And Crystal says, great advice. Thanks.
Okay. Number 4. This is my favorite. Number 4 is they have each other's ignition key. Okay. They carry each other's ignition key. That means I can start her up. I can fire her up. I can turn her on. Let's go. Can I get the button? What? Can I hit the button? There we go. A little delay.
See, he can tell us what to do, but
yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So here's the point though. Okay. I know I'm not going to try to get gross, right? Like the concept is you're combustible, right? Like if you're both in the mood, it's combustible. Like, be careful, right? They know the ins and outs of what has to be checked off the list to get to that spot. And I'll just say stuff like, Stacey tends to be anxious, and if she has something on her head, she can't let it go. She gets kind of stuck. So like, just make up a scenario. Let's just pretend like it's a snowy day or something, and I come home from work and she's still got her work to do. She's the office manager. She's docking on billing. She's got people on hold. If I come down and just like touch her and be like, hey, honey. And she's be like, what? I'm busy. Like, I got stuff to do. There's no way that ignition key is going to work. Okay. So power couples, literally, I can look at Stacey and know where she's at. And then I'll just start to say, hey, you're a busy day. Like, hey, the office canceled or the snow day, whatever. And I'll just go upstairs and start knocking out all kinds of chores. I won't sit down and just chill. I'll get stuff done. And if that stuff's done, I mean, obviously I've got like an idea, like where we're going to go here. And then sometimes that idea meets and sometimes it doesn't. Stacey's like, oh, I wasn't thinking about ignition keys. She's like, I was kind of thinking date night. So we go out to eat and go to a movie and stuff. So it ends up still, we're spending time together, but it might not be the way you think about it. But I want you to think about the concept of, what do I have to do to make her enjoy me? And I'm not just talking physically, intimately.
Help her, maybe not make her.
Okay. Help her. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah. Okay. Make, wrong word. But here's the idea. I hear this a lot with couples, right? Like, Stacey doesn't desire me. Like, I can't do anything to get her to look at me. Like, she doesn't want me. And those kinds of things really set up a negative mindset. So if I put up a negative mindset, those are the ants. Go back and watch the ant video, automatic negative thoughts. If I have a thought that says she doesn't want me, or she's always disinterested. Now I put on binoculars or goggles and I can't see the truth. So when she tries to like, shine her key for me or something, I'm going to be like, whatever, she's just taunting me. And so I really need you to understand, like, it's my job, I guess, to make me desirable, if that makes sense to you. And I'm not talking like how I look or smell. That's important, but more about like me just not looking like a sloth at home, like me setting goals, like me trying to be a team player at home, me taking care of the laundry when she's sick, me going to get her soup and 7-Up and stuff like that. Like, those are the pieces, like that key piece to know my wife and know what she needs. That's on me, and vice versa. That's on her. So when you're at those pieces, like if you're negative and down, if you can't focus on your strengths, if you can't see why she ticks that way, then you're gonna be in trouble. Because what happens is, like, there were years when I would try to get my wife to bow hunt, and then she wouldn't care. She's like, I don't understand. And then she would try to be like, you should join this book club with me. It's so amazing. Like, this guy in here, Ralph, if he was you could be friends. And I'm like, huh? Why did you say something? We just don't see eye to eye on those kind of things. We're not on the same page. So I stopped trying to make her a bow hunter. She stopped trying to make me a book club fanatic. And I let her, like, when I come home and she's got a book on the couch, like, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, that used to make me mad. Like, I'd literally get jealous. And I'd come in and just like walk around like, oh, you're going to sit down and read a book and there's like dishes to be done. Like, oh, I'm sure, like, I have to mow too. And I would just pout, like freaking just man pout. Right. Yeah. And now, I mean, I get it. Like, her book is her tree stand. So like she makes things happen for me. So we get stuff done. So she's like, okay, you're all set to hunt Saturday. When I see her work hard to get me in a tree stand, I'm going to work hard to get her on the couch to read a book. Okay. Those are the ignition keys. Okay. Those are the things, like, if I come up and grope her, that's not an ignition key. If I come up and like help her get stuff done so she can be on the couch with the fireplace and hot chocolate or coffee and a book, that's an ignition key. Okay. So focus on what works for you as a couple. Okay. The last one. So I have this as like, they have leapfrog mindset. A leapfrog mindset. So the concept of keep climbing. We have this concept like, hey, that was good, but let's make it better. And then we're like, hey, that was better, let's make it great. And then we're like, hey, that was great, but let's make it excellent. And I give Fran Fish that, because like when we would come over for dinner, like she would have her china and she would have all that stuff and she would have the doilies and name tags on your drinks. And for a long time, I'm like, why does your mom put herself out like this? And I was just like, that's a lot of work, because you just get it all out and put it back in. Like, why can't you just do paper plates and just be good? Call it a day. But when you see the joy Fran had when people go, this is so amazing, this is so over the top. Like, Fran did that to like honor people, to make people feel amazing. And so Fran's like, we say this all the time, like Fran's like standard was excellence. So at our house, we've adopted a thing that's like, our habit is excellence. Our habit is excellence. So I say that on our podcast meetings when we meet, we have our backstage meetings. Hey, our habit, as a family, is excellence. And that comes from Fran. So that idea to like leapfrog over each other, to keep climbing, to keep trying to do it better. Even things like Christmas Day, we have traditions that are honored and true, and we don't mess up. But I'm always like, how can we make Jesus still first? How can we just get the spiritual level one more piece? How can we? And we're always like, just, hey, honey, here's an idea. Hey, honey, here's an idea. And we leapfrog each other with that. And that's, if Stacey comes up with a brilliant idea, I'm not like, that's stupid. I'm like, hey, mom has a great idea. Okay. And then I back her up on it. But sometimes we'll have like, hey, mom and dad said this, and we put it in the group chat and everybody thumbs down. We're like, okay, let's keep climbing.
That happens a lot.
Let's keep climbing.
I think we're silly and dumb.
Yeah. So that's the idea of keep climbing, is like finishing together, growing together, helping each other, leapfrog each other. The idea is this, like, I want to live at my full potential, whatever that looks like. And I want Stacey to live at her full potential, whatever that looks like. And what I want to do is, I don't want to knock her down. I want to push optimism. I want to push, baby, you can do it. Like, one of the things that she's doing now is she's writing a book. And she's got a coach and she has an editor and she's climbing. And it's taken a long time, like a couple of years, for me to just keep dropping this thing every time we goal set, every time we push. And I'm like, hey, you should. And I don't have room to talk because I've been writing a book for 2 years. Right. So I'm on my third editor, like changing up the format, like finally found a team and a coach that's like, here's what we're going to do. And I'm like, I'm done asking questions. I'm just taking orders. Tell me what to do. And so that's where I'm at with my book. And Stacey's got an editor that's kind of cruising pretty quickly. She's going fast. And I can see her on the couch working on it. She gets stressed because her editor tells her what to do. And she's like, oh, I got to get this done. But I can tell, like, when she sends it to the family, we read it, I can see her joy. And that's exciting for me to say, you know, I can ignite my wife and set her off and let her go and push her and be the catalyst and push her up so that I can celebrate her and make, hey, did you know my wife's an author? Like, you know, just stuff like that. So that's a big thing for us, like, but just a small idea of like what you can do as a power couple. Any other questions that people have? Any other thoughts?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
No, I just, if anyone and we're toward the very end, but if you have anything to put in the comments about how you empower your spouse, if you want to type that in real quick to let others know what you do in your marriage to empower each other, because there's lots of different ways to do it. You want to be their biggest cheerleader. You want to be their biggest fan. You want to lift them up and encourage them. And so there might be, if you have any cool things that you do, that would be awesome too, if you could put it in the comments. So
yeah. And so remember, this is just kind of like our list that we pulled off other lists. So I'm not sure about the research behind it, stuff like that, but they make sense to us based on our life and what we've done. And remember, so, you know, we've got 32 years of experience, but if you saw us 15 years ago, we wouldn't be able to say this. We'd struggle. Maybe we'd have a 2-point list. If you saw us literally 30 years ago, we weren't healthy. Like, we were contemplating the D word. Like, her mom is on the phone making her stop crying. And like, I'm like,
we said we'd never say the D word, but it maybe was in our brains, but not that we were going to.
So let's clarify. We never actually said or spelled out the D word, but we actually said, quote, D word. D-W-O-R-D, right?
Well, because we've said that a lot in our 30 years, but both of us know it was never going to happen.
Yeah, but we never actually said the word, right? So I know what you're saying. Like, you're correct. We've never said the word, but we always go like, oh, I should file for the D word.
Because
like,
in the moment you're so mad, that's what you want to do. But there's also the piece that you know that you never will.
Right.
And I think that's the goal I would think for all couples. Is to know that no matter how rough it gets and know how mad you get at each other, that ultimately you know that you are going to stick it out and stay together. Yeah.
And so this is the idea I want you to think about. Like, if you saw us, think about like just a decade, like whatever. I'm sorry, that's too long. Think about 5 years. 5 years is a chapter, right? So we've got 6 chapters. So if you just went back 1 chapter, we wouldn't be this strong, this powerful. If you look back 4 chapters, we're literally like struggling, okay, arguing, fighting, like not, just not getting stuff done. So each single chapter gets better and better and better. And there's life satisfaction scales. It's actually a scale you can take. The happiest people are single married couples. So like, if you're with one person for the longest amount of time, you're the happiest married couple. So the idea is it does get better. There's so much data on the DNA changes and swaps and stuff that happens with oxytocin and all these kind of things. It's a whole nother podcast. But here's my point to you. Don't look at us right now and think, man, I can never get there. See, I look at people like that. And honestly, sometimes it makes me sad. Like people who can go elk hunting or something, like, man, is that ever going to happen? And other times I look at people and I'm like, okay, so you just started with 1 duplex and now you've got like 50 properties. Like, honey, we need to buy a duplex like that. So I can just like have an idea and go, and then I can have an idea and I'm like, there's no way, like I'm never going to get there. Like, so I get it. I get where you're at. But here's the most important thing I can tell you. Jump, go,
start doing little
start
things.
Now, today. There's no Monday. There's only 10 Mondays left. You can't say I'm starting Monday, right? You're already on number 9. So I need you to push.
Andrea says, we just had a goals date night a couple weeks ago because we have been not coming together with our communication. It has really helped.
Yeah, let's go, Dre.
Yes, it's
where's that button? What?
It's all just trial.
I need an easy
But
button
it is
like that.
everything's just trying things and diving in and investing in you as a couple. I mean,
Yes.
no matter if you do it for a year and say, okay, that really, we bombed that didn't work, and you try something else. It's just literally diving in as a couple and figuring out how you two work, and knowing that you're going to be resilient as a couple and stay together and work through it no matter what.
Yeah.
So, and then Ty says, I saw the 30 years ago, they have come a long way. And not even just 30 years ago. I mean, everyone fights. We have horrible fights still. I mean, we have where you're crying and you go to bed sad, and I mean, that's just part of marriage. I mean, that's
Okay.
just
Okay. So
that's life.
Let's get real. So Taven was home.
See, Ty says that 10 years ago.
10 years. Okay. Oh yeah. So okay, last week Taven was home for fall break. So he was home like literally a week. Okay. Monday on the podcast thing. So Todd and I finished our ADHD talk. We go upstairs and Tavian's like, this is so dumb. He's like, I'm never watching a podcast again with mom. And I'm like, dude, it was that bad? He's like, no. He's like, and Stacey had this huge smile on her face, you know, and I'm like, what? And he's like, every time dad cracks his stupid dad joke, every time dad starts laughing, mom's all up here giddy. I was like, bro, I got the key, dog. I got the key. See? Okay. So that's like a high. Like, I'm like, oh, baby girl, you miss your papa? Like, you know, okay. And then a couple of days later, Saturday or something, I don't know. I don't even remember what we were arguing about, but we were arguing. And one of those heated things where like, I'm stubborn. I'm really stubborn. And so sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there, whatever. And I don't know if I was walking away from her or I was just cold. I don't know. Taven walks in and he's got a plate of food like it was Saturday afternoon because football's on. And he comes around the corner. He's like, just in 2 seconds, he's like, whoa, are you guys good? And it was just dead silence. I didn't say anything. Stacey didn't say anything. And so he goes and he sits on the counter in the kitchen and eats his food. And I hear like, you know, TikTok or whatever he's listening to. I can hear his phone. Like he wasn't having it. So I'm just saying that's like 5 days, 6 days. And you're on a high of highs. And then you're like not talking.
Well, we should be honest. I am a crier no matter what. And so usually the kids see that I've been crying and they'll be like, what'd you do, Dad? What happened, Dad?
You want to know my funny line when they go, Dad, what'd you do? And I was like, I just said, go fix me a turkey pot pie, Mom. That's from like Breakfast Club. Like, anyways, but everybody's like, you're so stupid. And they walk away. But okay, here's the idea. I want you just to think about like just so if we're the experts, all right, if we're the power couple, if we can go from a really super high, like, oh baby, really? Like I got your key, to like, I'm not talking and she was crying and Tavian leaves the room. I'm just telling you, like, it's not all like hugs and roses. There's times where we're stuck on even a Valencia idea. Like, can she ride her bike to this boy's house and play kickball? Or like, are we going to let her go to this dance? Like, can she hold hands? Like sometimes I just shoot an answer. And then Stacey's like, we haven't even discussed it. I'm like, I already gave you the answer. And then she's like, you're not the dad of everybody, you know? And then I just like walk away. So like, there's times I'm super stubborn and there's times when I'm like, I put it on Stacey, like, hey, what do you think? And I give Stacey permission or whatever. Like you can decide. And then she's like, no, I want your opinion. I'm like, I don't want to decide. Like, you know, I try to default. So here's the idea. I could take over. I could default. I can fight and get stubborn in the middle. And she could do the same. So if you're both defaulting, you take care of it. No, you take care of it. Well, then we're stuck, right? If both of us are stubborn on an answer, like we're doing it my way, no, I'm doing it your way, then we're stuck. If we're both like, I have the boss answer, like I talked to so-and-so, I surveyed 6 people and they said this, like now we're trying to hammer each other. They're all just seasons. They're all just moods. If you can just take a deep breath and relax and go back to, okay, what's our big vision, right? Our big vision is we both want to be influential, most importantly with each other and then our children. And then with people we can connect with, people who we can influence and grow and mature. If you go back to your goal as a couple, go back to your goal as a congruent team who ignites and lights up your kids, that's where you want to stay. Okay. If you ever think, I don't know what I'm doing, just think about Tyler saying that he's seeing all this stuff and he's still functional.
Crystal says, being intentional is hard work, but so rewarding.
Amen.
It is.
Amen.
It is.
Yeah.
Nice endings phrase.
Yeah.
And she says, y'all make it look so easy, but that's because you only see us here now. You don't see us in the grind and the day-to-day life. But I think we're honestly if I had one thing to tell any couple, it would be you have to put Jesus first in your marriage. And if you put Jesus first in your marriage, then everything else will work out. But you both have to have that goal that Jesus is first. And then it does look easy, even when it's not. Yeah,
correct. The peace that surpasses all understanding. He just gives us peace in the fight. If y'all really want to see a fight, maybe I'll videotape it one of these days when we go on a date night and I'm driving around and she's like, you pick where you want to go. And I'll pick Chinese and she'll say anywhere but there. And then she's like, you pick where we want to go. I'm like, no, you pick. She's like, no, you pick. No, you pick. No, you pick. Oh, fine, I'll pick. Let's get sushi. She's like, oh, no, sushi's not good tonight. Let's go get chicken. It's too greasy. It gives me gas. Like Jimmy John's. Okay. You know I don't like Jimmy John's. Subway's boring. And I just I turn on the music and I drive real fast and it's just like so that's usually where it all begins. Like my heart rate, my watch is beeping because it says, oh, good job, you're on a workout. And I'm like, not really, but okay. So
all over food, that's pretty sad.
That's kind of how, am I exaggerating or is that true? Like,
but if your heart's getting racing that much, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, well, because like you get to pick wherever you want, honey. It's your day. I always pick. You pick. Literally, it's my. So I'm like, really, honey? Like you were good? Like, okay. All right, Jimmy John's. No, not Jimmy John's.
I think you're pretty okay if that's what's getting your heart rate.
I'm just saying, like this. If you really want to know, like you really want to know.
Tyson's come over on Friday night, so
y'all really want to know.
Over now.
Yeah. Just kidding. Thankfully, though, I'm over it. So I just drive around and I really just try to work on breathing. We work on gratitude list, and it's like okay, and then we end up somewhere boring, like at I don't know, Red Robin or something.
All right, Michael Engel says, Ro, chill. Yes, Ro, chill. She's going to mess you up, bringing up dinner choices.
I don't know why, bro. That's one of my, okay, so I'm just telling you, like, that's stupid, right? You all can raise your hand and be like, dude, you're stupid. Like, you're stubborn. I'm telling you, I have my things. Like, there's other things that like people would freak out about. And I'm like, it's okay, honey, we'll figure it out. And then over that dumb thing, because she'll say, you can pick. Seriously? Yes. Like 13 times. Are you for real? Yes. I can pick. Yes. Okay, let's go to Japanese steakhouse. And then she'll be like, no, I don't want to go there. And I'm just like, yeah, y'all get it. Okay. But
everyone has their things.
Everybody has their things.
Everyone has their things. So.
I get it. And now back in the day, I would be so mad. I'd be like, forget it. I'm not eating. And I would go home and I'd do the whole man pout thing. Now I just drive around in circles. We pull over here. We pull over there. And, 45 minutes later, sometimes maybe 20 minutes later, we're end up at a spot and we eat.
Or like Ty says, don't put his fingernail clippers back in his drawer. Watch out.
Oh, we're going there. Okay. Yeah.
Our hardest year of marriage was our first year of marriage when we came together and had Tyler, because we had Tyler separately for a year. And then we got married when he was a year and a half. And now all of a sudden we're this little family. And all of a sudden having to parent together. I always say I never cussed growing up, ever. And then that one first year of marriage, oh, wow. When Ro would make me mad, I don't know why I would even cuss because I never even did. And I would just lash out on him. So we made it through that year. So
yes. Yeah. That was honestly
that was hard.
For sure.
That was a hard year.
All right. So thank you for joining us. We want to remind you that we have a system to teach people. So we want to remind you, number one, to renew your perspective. We want you to move towards uncertainty, and we want you to always circle back and find what's awesome about every situation that you find yourself in. Never forget, there's 2 times to climb, baby. When you're a champion and when you're a beginner.
When you feel like it and when you don't.
Amen.
Have a good night.
Peace out, people.
Bye.
Thank you.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, but what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.